The sacred fires of Vealoria cast eerie violet shadows across the Judgment Square. Thera stood bound to the purification pillar, her silvery skin dulled with bruises, her four iridescent eyes downcast. The 7 members of the High Council observed from their elevated platform, their elongated faces impassive beneath ceremonial headdresses that sparkled with bioluminescent crystals. Theralexia von Deur, intoned High Minister Krell, his voice amplified by the square's acoustic design. You have been found guilty of harboring the ancient curse. Your mind fire threatens the safety of our collective. The sacred laws demand purification. The gathered crowd hummed in approval. Thera refused to cry out, though the restraints cut into her wrists. She'd known this day would come since her powers first manifested during adolescence. The ability to connect with and manipulate the energy fields around her, to move objects with her mind, to feel the thoughts of others like whispers against her consciousness. I am not cursed, she said softly, but only the guards nearest her heard. One struck her across her face, splitting her lip. Silver fluid trickled down her chin. From the edge of the square, a solitary figure watched with growing horror. Ambassador Cyrus Blackwood had arrived on Vealoria only 3 standard weeks ago, sent by the Terran Alliance to negotiate mining rights on this mineral-rich world. The diplomatic mission had been tense from the start. The Vealorians treated humans with barely concealed disdain, keeping him at arm's length during negotiations. Now he understood why they had postponed today's scheduled talks. They were too busy conducting a public execution. As decreed by ancient law, continued Krell, your body shall be cleansed by sacred flame, your spirit released from its corrupted vessel. He raised his ceremonial staff. Let the purification begin. The temple attendants approached with torches. Thera closed her outer eyes but kept her inner ones open, a final act of defiance. She would face death with dignity, even as terror threatened to consume her. Cyrus felt something snap inside him. In that moment, diplomatic consequences seemed meaningless compared to the injustice unfolding before him. He pushed through the crowd, ignoring the shocked gasps of the Vealorians as his human hands touched their sacred persons. Stop this, he shouted, his translator device amplifying his words. This is barbaric. Ambassador, hissed Krell, you have no standing here. This is our law, our tradition. She's done nothing wrong. Cyrus reached the center of the square, just as the first torch touched the kindling at Thera's feet. Flames licked upward, and she let out a choked sob. In one fluid motion, Cyrus shoved the attendant aside and leapt through the small flames. He pulled a vibroblade from his boot and slashed through Thera's restraints. Her body collapsed against him, surprisingly light in the planet's gravity. Seize him, roared Krell. Guards rushed forward, but Cyrus was already moving. He activated the emergency beacon on his wrist communicator, a distress signal that would confuse their systems, and ran with Thera cradled against his chest. His diplomatic immunity meant nothing now. He had just committed the highest crime on Vealoria by interfering with a sacred ritual. As they reached the edge of the square, Thera's eyes flickered open. All 4 pupils dilated in fear and confusion. Why? She whispered, her translator struggling with a single word. Because you deserve to live, he answered, ducking into a narrow alleyway as sirens began to wail throughout the capital city. Thera's body tensed suddenly. Pain shot through her as her powers flared involuntarily. The stones of the building beside them cracked, causing debris to rain down, blocking the path of their pursuers. I'm sorry, she whispered, slipping back into unconsciousness. Cyrus tightened his grip and plunged deeper into the twisted streets of the alien city, the bundle in his arms both his damnation and his purpose. Behind them, the sacred flames rose higher, consuming nothing but air, a failed ritual that would not be forgiven. Dawn broke over the barren highlands of Vealoria's northern continent. Cyrus wiped sweat from his brow as he adjusted the makeshift shelter inside the abandoned mining outpost. Monitors he'd salvaged from his diplomatic vessel blinked with warning signals. The council had officially branded him a criminal and placed a bounty on both their heads. Thera lay on a pallet of emergency blankets, her silvery skin covered with healing salve. The burns from the ritual fire had blistered her lower limbs, and dark bruises mottled her torso. Her breathing was shallow but steady. During their escape, Cyrus had administered basic medical care from his emergency kit, but he was no doctor. You need to wake up soon, he whispered, replacing the cooling compress on her forehead. As if responding to his voice, Thera's 4 eyes fluttered open, the outer pair focusing on the ceiling while the inner pair found his face. She jolted upright with a gasp, then winced in pain. "Easy," Cyrus said, hands raised to show he meant no harm. "You're safe." "Human," she whispered, her translator pendant converting her musical language to Terran standard. "Why am I not dead? I couldn't watch them murder you for something you can't control." Thera's inner eyes narrowed while her outer ones scanned the shelter. "You've condemned yourself. The Council never forgives interference with purification." "I'm well aware," Cyrus replied, offering her water. "But I couldn't stand by and watch." She accepted the water cautiously. "Your name?" "Cyrus Blackwood, ambassador for the Terran Alliance. Or former ambassador, I suppose." Thera attempted to sit up straighter, flinching as pain shot through her body. "They will hunt us both now. My curse endangers you." "It's not a curse," Cyrus said firmly. "It's an ability, a gift perhaps." "Gift?" Thera's laugh was bitter. "It destroyed my family's dwelling during a nightmare. It killed my bonded companion when I couldn't control it during our joining ceremony." Her voice broke. "The Council was right to condemn me." Cyrus knelt beside her. "No one deserves to die for abilities they were born with. On Earth, people with special abilities were once persecuted too. And now they're trained, respected. Some become leaders, healers, protectors." Silence fell between them. Outside, the wind howled across the desolate landscape. This outpost, abandoned after an industrial accident years ago, provided temporary shelter, but Cyrus knew they couldn't stay long. "Why did you save me?" Thera finally asked, all 4 eyes fixed on him. "Your species and mine barely tolerate each other." Cyrus busied himself checking her bandages. "Because it was right. Because I've spent 3 weeks watching your council treat those they deem lesser with cruelty. Because," he hesitated, "when I saw you standing there with such dignity, I couldn't let them destroy something so rare." Thera's outer eyes closed in contemplation while her inner ones studied him. "You have sacrificed everything for me," she whispered. "A stranger. Perhaps," Cyrus smiled slightly, "or perhaps I've finally found something worth fighting for in this cold and distant world." The moment was interrupted by an alarm on Cyrus's wrist device. "Council sentries," he explained, moving to the view screen. "They're scanning this region. We need to suppress your energy signature." "I don't know how," fear edged Thera's voice. Around them, loose objects began to vibrate as her anxiety triggered her abilities. Cyrus returned to her side, taking her hands firmly in his. "Focus on me. Only me." Their eyes locked, 4 to 2, and gradually the trembling objects settled. Something passed between them in that moment, a connection beyond words. For the first time since her abilities had manifested, Thera felt something besides fear when using them. "There," Cyrus said softly. "Together, we might just survive this." Outside, the council ships passed overhead, their searchlights sweeping the barren landscape, hunting for the human who had defied their laws and the cursed one who should have burned. "Focus," Cyrus instructed, placing a small metal sphere on the ground between them. They sat cross-legged, an array of sunlight filtering through the outpost's damaged ceiling. 2 weeks had passed since their escape. Thera's physical wounds had begun to heal, the silver sheen returning to her skin as she recovered. "I can't control it precisely," Thera protested, frustration evident in her melodic voice. "You can," Cyrus insisted. "You moved it yesterday." "And nearly collapsed the ceiling," she reminded him. He smiled. "Progress is rarely tidy." Thera closed her outer eyes, focusing with her inner pair. The sphere trembled, then rose shakily into the air. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she maintained concentration. When the sphere had risen to eye level, she carefully rotated it, then lowered it gently back to the ground. "Perfect," Cyrus breathed. Thera opened all 4 eyes, exhilaration washing over her features. "I did it. I told you. Not a curse, a gift." Their gazes held longer than necessary. Over the past weeks, something had evolved between them, mutual respect ripening into fascination, fascination into attraction. Cyrus found himself mesmerized by the graceful movements of her 6-fingered hands, the musical cadence of her natural voice. Thera had begun to study the contours of his face when she thought he wasn't looking. "The council archives speak of others like me, long ago," Thera said, breaking the silence. "All destroyed in purification rituals. Or so they claim," Cyrus countered. "My research before coming here mentioned ancient Veilorian telekinetic abilities." Thera leaned forward. What research? Historical records from first contact, 2 centuries ago. Early human explorers documented Valorians moving objects with their minds, sensing emotions across distances. Impossible. Such abilities have always been the curse. History is written by the powerful, Cyrus replied. Perhaps your council rewrote yours. Their conversation was interrupted by the security system's alert. The view screen flickered with incoming data. What is it? Thera asked. Cyrus studied the display. They've deployed bio-trackers. Machines that can identify your unique energy signature. His expression darkened. We need to move tonight. As they packed essential supplies, Thera paused, placing her hand gently on Cyrus's arm. The contact sent an unexpected warmth through both of them. Why continue risking everything for me? She asked softly. Cyrus hesitated, then cupped her face with his hand. The gesture was intimate, crossing the boundaries between their species. Thera didn't pull away. Because in saving you, I found myself, he whispered. Everything before feels hollow in comparison. Their foreheads touched, an echo of the Valorian bonding gesture. Thera's inner eyes closed while her outer ones gazed into his. Something electric passed between them, a current of possibility neither had anticipated. The moment was broken by another alarm. On the view screen, multiple tracker units converged on their location. They found us, Cyrus said, gathering the last of their supplies. Thera stood, newfound determination in her stance. Then they'll learn I'm no longer helpless. As the first tracker unit breached the outpost's door, Thera extended her hand. The machine froze mid-air, its components straining against her mental grip. With a twist of her wrist, she crushed it into a ball of twisted metal. Cyrus stared in amazement. That was just the beginning, Thera finished, a fierce smile illuminating her features. Lead the way, Cyrus Blackwood. I'll watch our backs. They slipped out the rear exit as more trackers approached, Thera's powers deflecting pursuit as they disappeared into the twilight landscape. For the first time, she embraced what she had been taught to fear, and found not destruction, but liberation. The underground cavern hummed with activity. Rebels moved purposefully through the hidden base, a mix of Valorians and other species who had found common cause against the Council's oppression. Thera and Cyrus had been brought here blindfolded 3 days ago, after being intercepted by a rebel patrol during their flight from the trackers. The Prophet will see you now, announced Maddox, their gruff escort. They followed him through winding passages carved into the planet's subsurface rock until they reached a chamber illuminated by bioluminescent plants. At its center stood an elderly Valorian female, her skin weathered to a pale gray, all 4 eyes clouded with age but alert. Welcome, awakened one, she addressed Thera, using an ancient honorific that made the younger Valorian flinch. I am no such thing, Thera protested. I am simply defective. No, the elder said firmly. You are what the Council fears most, proof of their lies. She turned to Cyrus. And you, human, have shown more understanding of our true nature than most of my kind. What lies? Cyrus asked, though he had begun to suspect. The Prophet gestured toward an ancient data terminal. See for yourselves. The screen activated, displaying historical records far older than the current Council regime. Thera gasped as images appeared showing Valorians openly using abilities like hers, telekinesis, empathy, healing. What you call the curse was once our people's greatest strength, the Prophet explained. 3 centuries ago, a faction seized power, declaring such abilities dangerous. Those who possessed them were systematically eliminated or driven underground. But why? Thera whispered, transfixed by footage of her ancestors freely using the very powers she had been taught to fear. Control, the Prophet said simply. Gifted ones questioned authority, since deception could not be easily governed. The Council's predecessors decided it was easier to rule through fear. Cyrus took Thera's hand. I knew there was more to your abilities. That evening, they stood on a secluded ledge overlooking the rebel base. The revelation of her people's true history had transformed something within Thera. She stood taller, her movements more confident. All my life, I believed I was broken, she said quietly. A danger to everyone around me. And now? Cyrus asked. She turned to him, all 4 eyes bright with newfound purpose. Now I understand why you saved me. Some truths are worth any risk. Their bodies moved closer, drawn by an attraction that had grown stronger with each passing day. When their lips finally met, it was gentle at first, an exploration of difference, then a celebration of it. Thera's hands traced the unfamiliar contours of his face while Cyrus marveled at the silken texture of her skin against his. "This is forbidden too," she whispered against his mouth. "I've developed quite an appreciation for forbidden things," he replied, drawing her closer. Later, in the privacy of their quarters, barriers of species fell away as they discovered each other with tender curiosity. Their joining was both alien and familiar, a bridge between worlds that proved physical differences mattered little when souls connected. Afterward, they lay entwined, her luminescent skin casting a gentle glow across his. "The Council will never stop hunting us," Thera said, her head resting on his chest. "Then we fight back," Cyrus replied. "Not just for us, but for all your people denied their true heritage." In the days that followed, they became integral to the rebellion. Cyrus taught diplomatic strategy and negotiation tactics, while Thera worked with other hidden gifted Valorians, helping them control abilities long suppressed. Together, they began planning not just for survival, but for revolution. "We strike at the heart of their lies," Thera declared during a strategy session. The annual Purification Festival approaches, when all citizens are required to attend the ritual burning of those deemed cursed. "This year, we show them the truth." As plans formed and allies gathered, Cyrus and Thera found their love deepening, a bond forged in danger and strengthened by purpose. Each night they spent together felt stolen from fate, precious moments of connection while their world stood on the precipice of change. Neither suspected that the Council had planted a traitor in their midst, one who sent encrypted messages detailing their every move and weakness, especially Cyrus's unwavering devotion to Thera, a vulnerability waiting to be exploited. Thera felt the disturbance before the alarm sounded, a ripple of wrongness that jolted her from sleep. Beside her, Cyrus stirred, instantly alert to her tension. "What is it?" he asked. "Betrayal," she whispered, her inner eyes unfocused as she extended her senses throughout the rebel base. "They're coming." They barely had time to dress before Council forces breached the outer defenses. Explosions rocked the cavern as elite soldiers poured through multiple entry points. The rebels fought back valiantly, but they were outnumbered. "We need to reach the communications hub," Cyrus shouted over the chaos. "Broadcast the historical archives to the entire planet." They fought their way through corridors filled with smoke and debris. Thera's powers had grown exponentially under the Prophet's guidance. She deflected energy weapons, created shields around injured rebels, and cleared paths through collapsed tunnels. At the communications center, Cyrus worked frantically to prepare the broadcast while Thera held back advancing soldiers. They were moments from success when a stun blast hit Cyrus from behind. As he collapsed, Council Commander Vex stepped into view. "The human criminal," he said coldly. "High Minister Krell will be pleased." "No," Thera screamed, her power surging outward in a shockwave that threw the soldiers back. But more poured in, overwhelming her with suppression fields designed to neutralize her abilities. She fought until exhaustion took her, her last sight being Cyrus's unconscious form dragged away. When she regained consciousness hours later, surviving rebels surrounded her. The Prophet knelt beside her, face grim. "They've taken him to the capital," she said. "The Council has announced a special purification, the human who defiled our sacred traditions." Thera rose unsteadily. "Then we accelerate our plans. Now." The purification square was filled beyond capacity. Citizens from across the region had been summoned to witness the execution of the human diplomat who had committed sacrilege. Cyrus stood bound to the purification pillar where Thera had once been sentenced, his face bruised but his eyes defiant. High Minister Krell addressed the crowd, his amplified voice echoing across the square. "Let this be a lesson to all who would challenge our sacred traditions. The humans' ashes will serve as warning to the Terran Alliance not to interfere in Valorian affairs." From different points around the square, disguised rebels moved into position. The Prophet had sacrificed herself to ensure their plan succeeded, deliberately getting captured to serve as distraction. As the first torches approached the pyre, the sky darkened unnaturally. Citizens looked up in confusion as swirling energy patterns formed overhead. Then Thera appeared, floating above the crowd, her abilities no longer hidden but displayed in breathtaking glory. "People of Valoria," her voice rang out, amplified by her powers. "You have been deceived." With a gesture, she activated the massive holographic projectors the rebels had secretly installed days before. Ancient records filled the air above the square. images of Valorians freely using the very abilities now deemed cursed. These are not fabrications, she continued as murmurs rippled through the crowd. These are our ancestors before the council stole our heritage. Krell's voice rose in fury. She lies. The curse speaks through her. Then let me demonstrate truth, Thera replied, descending to where injured rebels were being held. With gentle touches, she healed their wounds before the astonished crowd. The same power that can destroy can also restore. This is our birthright, not a curse, but a gift meant to serve life. As confusion spread through the gathering, council guards moved to light Cyrus's pyre. Thera felt the flames ignite and, with a cry of rage and love, redirected the sacred fire. It spiraled upward, forming a brilliant column that consumed not Cyrus, but the ancient scrolls of condemnation Krell clutched in his hands. The crowd gasped as Thera freed Cyrus with a thought, the restraints falling away. He ran to her side while rebels emerged from hiding, revealing themselves among the citizens. For generations, you feared what you did not understand. Thera addressed the stunned onlookers. The council used that fear to control you, to keep you divided and weak. Looking at Cyrus, drawing strength from his unwavering support, she continued, "It took an outsider to show me the truth of who I am, who we all could be." The square erupted in chaos as citizens argued, questioned, demanded answers. Council loyalists fought to maintain control while others, witnessing Thera's display, began to doubt generations of teaching. In the confusion, Krell made one final, desperate attempt. Drawing a ceremonial dagger, he lunged towards Cyrus. Without hesitation, Thera interposed herself between them. The blade pierced her shoulder, silver blood flowing freely. Instead of retaliating with destruction, she placed her hand on Krell's chest. His eyes widened as she shared a vision directly into his mind, the truth he had always known but denied, the fear that had driven him to perpetuate ancient lies. "Feel what you have denied," she whispered. Krell collapsed to his knees, all four eyes wide with shock as centuries of deception unraveled within him. The revolution was not won in a single day. Weeks of negotiation followed, with Cyrus's diplomatic skills proving as valuable as Thera's powers and forging a new path forward. A provisional government formed, including representatives from gifted Valorians, council moderates, and other factions. 1 month after the failed execution, Thera and Cyrus stood on the balcony of the former council chambers, now a center for healing and education. Below them, young Valorians practiced newly discovered abilities under careful guidance. "The Terran Alliance is sending a new diplomatic team," Cyrus said, arms encircling her waist from behind. "They've officially recognized the provisional government." "And what of their rogue ambassador?" Thera asked, leaning back against him. "Technically still exiled," he admitted with a smile. "Though they've hinted at a pardon if I agree to serve as advisor to the new mission." Thera turned in his embrace, all four eyes studying his beloved face. "And will you?" "My home is with you now," he said simply. "Wherever that takes us." She placed her hand over his heart, using her gift to let him feel the depth of her love without words, the bond between them transcending species, distance, even the scars of their shared ordeal. "You carried me through fire," she whispered. "Now we build from the ashes, together." Above them, the skies of Valoria gleamed with possibilities as bright and boundless as the stars themselves.